We are going to start with the second deployment, and the year was 2009.
It's that moment where you go, like, so we actually started doing our train up and workups. So we had a very different company commander than what I had in the last one. He took a lot of flack during that time, but I appreciate, and I really want him on here as a guest in the future, but I really have an appreciation for a lot of the things he did back then. Was he perfect? No. Was I? No, none of us were. But I think his heart was in the right place, though, which is more than I can say for, just a lot of commanders and stuff. So we were training, literally we were on active orders as of like, I don't know, it's October of 2008. So October, November, December, and then half of January before we actually left. And so we were, let's see, half of January, then we didn't get back till mid-December, I guess it was. It's really like that moment where you take a calendar of a year. And I told a guy one time, because he wanted to go over there as a contractor, I was like, look, here's the thing, you got a wife and 3 kids. Take a calendar and circle all the really important dates during that, calendar, birthdays, anniversary, Christmas, all that, and then set fire to it. Because you're going to miss a lot of time, man. You're going to miss a lot of time, man.
I was going to ask you, so this deployment in 2009, slightly different than the first deployment in the sense that you now had 2 kids.
Right.
And a wife. Still had the same wife.
Same wife. Go back to that 30+ years thing.
But now you had 2 kids. You had a daughter and a son, both very young. I believe our
daughter was 11.
Son was...
He just turned 12, actually.
I was going to say our son was 5.
He turned 5.
He had just turned 5-ish a couple months before you got back. So he was actually 4 when you left.
Yeah, he was a little guy.
So then that makes our daughter 11 at the time.
Yeah.
How was your mindset? Was it any different than the first go round, or was it like, hey, we've been here before?
So you go into it saying, hey, listen, I know what to expect now. And you have to. So for me, it was very different from the standpoint that now I'm an E6, I'm a staff sergeant. And being a staff sergeant, I've got more people I'm responsible for, more tasks I'm responsible for. But then I still have, I'm still a human being. I still have a family, and I still, have my homesickness and stuff like that. And I hit it too. I mean, I was in Kuwait for a week and a half, something like that. I don't remember. And then after about a week in Iraq, I was like, holy crap, here it is. Here's the homesickness part. Come on, up. So, I hit that homesickness part, and I don't know that it was different, having 2 kids instead of 1. It was just, it was heavy.
It was very difficult on the kid. It was difficult on our son, who, like I said, was 4 at the time that you left, because he didn't really understand. He just knew that one day Dad was gone.
Man, still stinging all these years later. Yeah.
Just because I can remember. So it triggers a lot of hard times.
I think reunions are always the happy thing, right? But I still struggle with that moment of getting back to see him. Because he was, and I'm sure some people who watch this probably had some similar moments or something, I don't know, but he was excited. He was so emotional that he was excited, and he was crying, and he was just going through it.
Yeah.
And hell, here I am, supposed to be a big tough soldier, and I'm like breaking down just right there with him. I was like, oh.
Well, before we talk about getting home, let's talk about that second deployment. Where did you go this time? Where were you deployed to?
After being in Kuwait for a little bit, because you go through Kuwait, you go through, requalifying your weapons and all this other stuff. There's some cool stuff that happens with that. But I got actually pulled to the side. Here's the thing. I didn't put in a packet to get promoted to E7 because I wanted to deploy with my people, my squad. And then, joke's on me. I got pulled to the side. I got actually pulled from my squad because I hurt my knee. I was trying to work my way back into that spot. I found out later that was never going to happen because of some individuals that will not be named.
Right.
But I got pulled to the side and said, hey, we're going to send you and these other 3 soldiers from another one from our platoon and a couple from other platoons up to Tikrit, where battalion's at. Which I was like, wait a minute, I deployed with battalion the first time. I switched down to what we call a line company. And then I ended up getting deployed with battalion again. Like, this is a horrible joke. Like, whoever's idea this is, it's terrible. Bring back Ralphie May, something. This is not funny.
Oh my gosh.
I was trying to just roll with it, right? But, it kind of was what it was. But they're like, okay, well, you're going to be part of a PSD squad, which is personnel security detail, I think is what, I rolled with them guys for several months, so you think I know what it stands for. But anyway, you're like bodyguards. You're a squad that escorts the colonel and or the sergeant major and their aides with them. I'll have like aides that go with them, whatever. And I really rolled those guys for about 3 months before I took over an operations cell within the battalion. Well, what we call an HHD element. So it just a lot of different moving parts there. So 1 minute I'm, going outside the wire, I'm doing all that stuff, and then a few months later I am now not doing that. I'm working behind the scenes, managing people, which, I love leading troops. It's literally an honor that I think people don't put enough stock into.
You're a good leader.
Well, I appreciate that. And it comes from hard work, because after my first deployment, and this didn't really get talked about, I was actually responsible for 3 troops in that first deployment. And as, a lot of them and some of my leadership was like, oh no, you did a great job, blah, blah. I've got a great review that says I did a good job. I am my own worst critic, and it's not even close. I knew there was some failures there on my part. Now, did it cause anything wrong? No, but man, like if you know good leadership is a Sergeant Major Voltline, and he's here and you're here, you want to at least kind of start closing that gap a little bit. That's my thought. I had one of my 2-week, training, 2 weeks again. 19 days is not 2 weeks, Mr. Army. So I had one of those where Sergeant Major Voltline was supposed to be there to lead our section, and he had a family emergency like 3 days prior and couldn't go. The next guy in line was an E7, and he had already said, I'm in class. Me, an E5 leading the entire section now, with a battle captain who, again, name not going to be named, was kind of like my dad was. Sometimes there and a lot of times not, Don't edit that. That's good stuff. So, and I got a medal for that, for a training mission because of that. But I still went, I gotta do better. I gotta do better. I had to learn to get better at leading. Consequently, shortly after that, we became part of a business team where they emphasized leadership and reading and being intentional about growth and that stuff.
Right.
And the unit that I deployed with in 2009 was a different unit than what I deployed with before. And my very first 2 weeks with them, I go to my first weekend drill, and the platoon sergeant comes up to me and goes, all right, listen, you're it. And I don't, look, man, that's a scary thing. You're like, it for what? And he goes, well, our annual training's coming up, and I am not going to be there. And next guy in line is going to be a BNOC, which is basic NCO course. You're it. I just got there. I don't know any of these people. That's some scary times to have to lead troops, and a lot of them who have been deployed before, like myself. But there's the cool part about it. You're only going with about half the platoon, so only have like 18 to 20 people. And you're like, you need a team, you need a driver and a gunner, so pick who you want. And then let the chips fall where they may. My driver was hardcore, awesome, great guy. Sergeant Carney is a stud of a soldier, in my opinion. My gunner ended up being my first bout with veteran suicide later on, but I was actually reading a book right when that started, and that AT started. And it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, the funniest part about that book is I started reading it right before a conference that we were at. And on the way back from this conference, we're on a plane. And you were sitting next to me, so I don't even know if you remember this. All right, so I'm sitting there, I got the plane hasn't started moving yet. But it's almost like Stretch Armstrong, right? This dude from the other side of the aisle reaches up like 3 seats. And if you've ever been on an airplane now, it just seems impossible, right? He reaches up and taps me. He goes, hey, you just started reading that book. I'm on like page 13, right? I ain't the fastest reader ever. I'm like, yeah, it's been 3 days, page 13. Yeah. He goes, keep going. That book changed my life.
Wow.
I was well into that book by the time our annual training started. And I credit that book every time for helping me to be a better leader for them when I didn't even know most of them at that point.
So many times, whether it's in the military or even like in your jobs, you're put in a position where you have a manager or a supervisor or somebody that's meant to be in a leadership position that has literally no clue what they're doing
100%.
or has never even, like you said, picked up a book and read about the skills, because it's not something that you're born with. It's something that you learn.
That's a great point because it's a giant misconception. Like, he's a born leader. No one's a born leader. Some people are born with some nice traits. They're born with some charisma. They're born with some confidence. They're born whatever, but that doesn't make you a leader right off the bat. I mean, there's some work involved if you really want to, hone that craft. A lot of times we see in corporate America where, especially in the IT field, this guy's been with us for 12 years. He must be the next in line to be a leader. Right. Why? Because he's really good at IT doesn't mean he knows crap about leading somebody.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took it personal. Hey, get better because those troops deserve it. And it's in the NCO creed. All troops deserve good leadership, and I will provide that leadership. That's part of the creed.
Wow.
And again, more people need to take it to heart because too many of them like, hey, as long as I yell at somebody and tell them what to do, I must be leading.
Right.
No, you're just yelling at people and telling them what to do and you're embarrassing yourself in some cases. But so kind of leading into that deployment, I now am tasked with leading 3 troops up to battalion. We left before everybody else did because our group our unit went to Mosul, which, props to them. It was the most dangerous city in the world at that point.
Right.
We went to Tikrit, which was the birthplace of Saddam Hussein.
What was that, being in the most dangerous part of that country?
I didn't spend as much time as the rest of the unit did, but every time we had to do a mission back to visit our unit, that place was wild. There's bombed out buildings everywhere. It looked like a Cat 5 hurricane went through there yesterday. I mean, it's just like, holy freaking crap. I mean, one of the craziest ones, we had, all our squads rolled with 4 trucks, and one time we had to pull a trailer. Well, we went through one of these roundabouts where, there's the stuff that's bombed out, and the trailer got stuck. And we're like, and it's 8 o'clock at night. It's dark, ain't nobody out there. It's very eerie and creepy and whatever. And we're like, this sucks. I mean, this is next level suck right here. Nothing went wrong or nothing, but you just, at that point, every gunner, every what we call TC, truck commander, everybody's eyes are just wide open, like, what is out there? Yeah, and you should be anyway, I guess, right? But it's just a different level. We call it the pucker factor, right? Look that one up if you want to, Urban Dictionary or something, I don't know. I'm not explaining it here, but you get those kind of missions sometimes, though, where you're supposed to be back by the time the sun goes down, but it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
We have these things called route clearance packages. What do you call them? RCPs. And what is this, a set of trucks that rolls down the main roads or whatever roads looking for IEDs. They have this big old bar sticks out front of them and some chains that dangle, things trying to set off. They're trying to set off the bomb.
Right.
That bar is not far enough out there for my taste. Like, if you're driving that truck, that's a giant hell no. I mean, and literally, we pull up behind those things. They don't go like 15, 20 miles an hour because they're looking. They're hunting. So they're going super slow. So we pull up behind them, and inevitably, every time, someone like, hey, Sergeant, do you want to go around them? Do you go around the guy looking for the bomb? No, because that means we're looking for the bombs, and I don't want to do that. I mean, that's just not my skill set. I could probably find them the hard way, and who wants that, right? I mean, it was such a... I could not have possibly had 2 more different tours when it comes to my tasks.
Yeah.
Now, I still had to do some IT stuff for a battalion, because how they end up finding out sometimes, which I tried to keep my civilian job under wraps over there, because I remember what happened last time. Didn't help. Didn't work. And they also found I used to be a teacher, so I became the training NCO. So I didn't know you had one. Well, we did until we named you the training NCO. I'm like,
So you were mentioning you were taking 3 troops.
yeah, so we went up there. We all became part of that PSD element. Those 3 they stayed part of it the entire time. Again, my role kind of transitioned, even to the point where, like, when, also while you're here, once every, few weeks, you're going to go be the NCOIC of the entry point. Basically, like, I am in charge of a gate guard, which is hoorah, right? I mean, I've never been that guy who goes, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, you give me a task, we'll go do it, right? It was not fun. I mean, because again, now instead of 6 or 7 or 8 countries or whatever coming in to work on the camp, it's all Iraqis, and you got to search them. You're having to do pat downs, and 1 out of every X number would go through the scanner. I'm gonna tell you right now, there was one particular dude who came in every dang day, and he was every bit of 375 pounds. And we would put that dude to the scanner every single, just randomly, he's the guy, apparently. Just how do you end up being the 5th guy every single time? Because gate guard is not fun. You take the stuff from people, let them go through, and you put the stuff on the other side. When they get through, they're okay, you can pick up your crap. And literally, people come through with all kinds of stuff, like, okay, bowls of rice or whatever for lunch, bar soap. We've had a dude come through with bar soap several times. Like, clearly, you don't know how this is supposed to be used. I can tell. Yep, no, not using that one. There was this box at the entry point that if you're carrying explosives, you walk to the box, they hit the button, and if you're not carrying explosives, nothing happens. If you are, it detonates.
Oh.
I want to know what poor sap has to clean that thing when someone says, yeah, hey, listen.
That's a pressure washer situation.
Yeah, I didn't want anything to do with that. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I had, just like the last tour, I had several different tasks, but they were just so different. So different.
You and then we met some really good friends through this unit that you were with. So did you get to hang out with them the time you were over there? Or?
Very little. Now, after that mission ended when I was in Tikrit, I rejoined my unit. They had actually moved to Tal Afar, Iraq, which is way up north. It's up close to the Syrian border. Close to the Syrian border. It's not on it by any stretch. So I rejoined up there, and I actually got to hang out with them some more there. But it's a married couple that you're referring to. One of them was still at a combat outpost, like almost the entire time I was back with the unit. The other one, he and I got to hang out, definitely, and I love that guy to this day.
But for the most part, you were separated from this best friend couple.
Yeah, I'm like 95% of the time. And when you talk about best friends, I mean, yeah, they're like family to us. It was to the point, though, that I'm at battalion, so we have a battalion talk that gets to monitor all the different units, and if there's incidents, whatever, firefights, vehicle rollovers, IEDs, whatever. Every time I would hear about an incident, I wanted to know 2 things. Was it my unit, and was it my people? And I asked about that couple at least 25 times.
Yeah.
Because, they're like, again, like brother and sister to us. And, we're going to have them on here at some point. I want to talk to them about that kind of stuff too. But, when you deploy with them, you want to be, I felt almost fatherly. I wanted to keep them close so I could, be there to help. And you're helpless. I mean, I was literally probably a couple 100 miles away.
Yeah, because they had their own missions to do.
Yeah. And, they were out there doing combat operations. The man and the wife, they are both great soldiers.
Yeah.
Some other little things that happened there, and we'll let them tell their story. But I'll never forget one moment though. So there was a few times where I actually would hear, okay, there's a mission going up to meet up with the 351st. I'm like, oh, I'll jump in on that. Just go see my people, right? I mean, them. There's several people in that unit that I still keep in touch with.
They're friends.
Yeah, and you become a family.
Yeah. Even
separated from missions, you become a family.
Right.
And it's that relatability. I know what you went through in this, hell that we did. But I remember one time in particular. It was actually when I was rejoining up with my unit. And, I'm sorry, I was there for like 3 days or something like that. So I brought some gear. And our trucks pull up, and out there waiting for me is the wife of this couple. And she's like, I heard you were coming. I had to be here.
Aww.
And so we're talking for a little bit, and then the commander sends someone to come get me. I'm like, I am not that important for that to be summoned. I'm like, again, me and this commander, we're good now. We're friends. We talk every now and then. So I go in there and talk to the commander. Well, outside, the wife is like making sure my stuff gets put in a good spot for me to have a nice, comfortable night's sleep. I mean, I'll never forget stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's again that, hey, do we have each other's back when we need to?
Mm-hmm.
And as a platoon, our platoon even now has each other's back. Right now, I could call up any number of them, and they would be like, all right, well, what new, man? We ride at dawn. What's the deal? I mean, like, do I need to, take you to a buffet, or do we need to go shoot something? What are we doing?
That's pretty cool. It's a brotherhood.
Very much so. And I think in a lot of ways, a lot of us bonded over, because of the negative that was happening.
Okay.
Same kind of thing. A lot of backbiting. There was people that were being very sinister. And I don't use that word lightly. There's people who were plotting and planning and just stuff that, like, listen, again, do you realize what they've done? They've taken all of us, put us here, separate us away from what's comfortable, and put us in a dangerous situation in an area where we don't want to be, and it's just the armpit of the earth, and you want to do this. Can we not just show up as we are and leave as we are? Show up as a platoon, leave as a platoon. Show up with the first sergeant, leave with the first sergeant. It's just, there was a complete sham of things going on in some cases. But again, I think our platoon bonded. Like, I was separated from the platoon, and we were still bonding over some of this stuff. Any number of dudes that, and females too, that I would love to have on this podcast, because they need to, as I mentioned in the very beginning, they need to understand that they may not see themselves as anything special or extraordinary, but I think there's other people out there that would.
Yeah.
But that tour was just unique in so many ways for me. I remember I had an E7 that I was assigned to. There was something about bald E7s I was having a little problem with out there.
Bald is sexy. Or maybe not. Your bald is sexy. He's bald, y'all. Okay.
There we go. So, but these E7s, when you get E7, maybe it's good I never got that way, or never made E7, but this one, like, he was that leader that would like to take credit for things other people were doing. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a soldier that gave to me because he got in trouble, and we kind of helped him work his way through some stuff. And literally, I worked with this kid a long time. He actually became part of our business team because of the stuff that he and I went through together. We get back to Fort Dix, New Jersey, is where we deployed out of. This E7 that I was attached to, that unit was at Fort Dix when we got there. We ran into them again. I'm like, that's all the people I was working with for how long? This guy goes and finds the NCOIC that used to be in charge of this kid and says, hey, I took care of your soldier while he was up there. No, you didn't. You had him sweeping a deck with sand on it. How's that taking care of him? What'd you do? Literally, this kid walks over to his first line leader and says, actually, he did, but that's okay. It's no big deal at this point. It's over. Pointing to me. I don't care. As long as you're good, I just don't care. And it's that whole team concept. As long as no one gives a crap who gets credit, the team's going to win.
Yeah.
I want to tell you kind of a cool story. I was going through some stuff, and again, I'm not going to get into specifics, but I was basically getting to a point where they were talking about putting me through a court-martial for an Article 92, which is Uniform Code of Military Justice. It basically is because I skipped the chain of command. I'm like, no, I didn't, because you don't know the chain of command. That's the difference. And then I got in trouble for that too. Disrespect. No, that's still the truth. It was a long story. So I was going through a lot of crap with that. To the point where like the guy wanted me to write like a 9-page essay. So it was mountains of stress because I had to deal with that and still do my job. It was unreal. So some of the subordinates I had used to kind of poke fun at me because this bald E7 that was there was like, Sergeant Walters, come on here and let me mentor you a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, please no. Just no. Like, so I would go in there.
I'm off if you don't.
You know, the world's going to be okay if you do not mentor somebody. So I come out of there and they would be like, oh, how's the mentorship going? You know, they'd say it real quiet. Well, one time I had a bunch of leadership books, like John Maxwell stuff. And this E7 was like, oh, that's pretty impressive. I like that. You know, to definitely work on your craft there or something like that. And I picked up one that was literally, it said something like skill with people or something like that. He goes, well, what's that got to do with leadership? I'm like, who are you leading? Is it a herd of sheep that you got there? I mean, I don't think we're leading people, right? Anyway.
Did you ask him if he wanted to read it?
You're going to need this way more than me. So I came out there one time and I was like, I looked at all my supporters like, say nothing. Because now I got all this crap going on with my other unit. And now this guy is just like, you should be learning this, you should be doing this, you should be going to more classes at the American University on the post here. I'm like, why? Like,
You guys are employed. You have missions on a daily, multiple missions to think about and keep your mind on, but he wants you to go to university?
And then wanted me to do his Excel homework. But anyway, that's, you know. So I came out there, I said, y'all say nothing to me. The first one y'all said something to me, I'm going to make you drop and do some push-ups. I assure you I still have that ability. So I went in my office and they're laughing now. I wasn't laughing.
You talk about, or you give some examples definitely of like the lack of leadership, but I'm sure you had some good leadership as well.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt. Well, you know, to finish that one thought though, I went and grabbed a book. Oh. And I was going to say, okay, I'm just going to get his mentorship out of my head. I'm going to read this mentorship. I'm going to read this leadership book. It was a John Maxwell book.
Yeah.
See, again, I serve a very powerful God.
Yes.
And he had a different idea of what I needed that day.
Yeah.
Because that John Maxwell book wasn't as much leadership. It was called The Difference Maker. Read it. It's such an incredible book because the difference maker is your attitude.
Oh. Yeah.
Why I picked that one up, I don't know. But my attitude about what was going on in that other unit changed. I went and talked to Battalion JAG and they was like, hey, don't sweat it, man. Just have a good, they told me, hey, just have a good attitude about this. You'll be fine. He can't do anything to you.
Wow.
Everything changed at that point. Now, yes, did I have some good leadership there? There was some good leaders out there. You know, Sergeant Caldwell, he's a master sergeant now. Amazing leader. The coolest part was, okay, that was a battalion element. The battalion element that came out to replace him was the one I deployed with the first time. So I ran into a lot of my old friends for about a week while they were coming out there getting settled in and whatever. One of my best friends in that unit, I kept all my stuff and I said, hey, go to Chew Alpha 3 and clean it out. He said, what? He's like, Dennis, you want me to go clean your chew? Because he and I are brothers too. I was like, you don't understand.
Take the stuff and run.
He goes in, there's a fridge, there's a TV, there's a DVD or Blu-ray player. I'm like,
just to maybe give an example, to compare the deployments, 2003 versus 2009. 2003, you weren't in a country where there's active battle. Your living situation, you were in a tent. And I'm sure there's some other like comparisons that you could do, but 2009, you are in a country, in a situation where, whether it's you yourself or maybe not, but part of your unit are definitely in for sure. And so there's a battle going on there. Your living situation, you're now in chews. And a chew is a
housing unit.
Wasn't it more like a Connex or like the metal? It's not like the metal things? It's more like a trailer?
It's more like, to me, it was more like a trailer.
Okay. I had it pictured different in my head.
Well, they're different wherever you go. Like when I rejoined the unit in Talfar, it was a 4-person chew, and it looked a little bit more like someone, you know, took 2 parts of Connex and slammed it together. The one I had in Tikrit, like someone cut the butt end of a trailer off. It's there, 2 people in there.
So you left him like all your goods, all your goodies.
It was awesome.
It would be to the point where I'm watching the bank account while he's gone, and he's buying a TV, and he's buying a...
No, to my credit, I didn't buy the TV. The TV I inherited that.
There's, like I said, now you have a little mini fridge, and now you have, let's see, I'm sure you have some sort of gaming system, I think.
Yeah, I think I kind of fell in on that one too, but I would end up with like a bunch of different Blu-ray or DVDs.
And so you just pass them down to the next guy, and the next guy just happens to be another super good friend who, again, is like family.
But here's a cool story though from now. When you talk about good leaders, I'm going to take a story from 2003 and tie it into a story in 2009. So, and I just told you about this one too. So I had to do a trip out to the Iraq border in 2003, 2004. I don't remember which year it was. And I was driving. We're all in civilians, just 3 people in a vehicle. Me, E5. The guy next to me is a major. He's an 04. No, he was a captain at the time, so he's an 03. So either way, he's a captain. It's definitely outranks me. The guy behind me is a sergeant major. This is the one I was talking about earlier. So, we're going through the vast openness of the Kuwaiti desert, which is loaded with really cool roads that are bombed out. So we smoke a tire, and it's 125 plus. So even at 125 degrees, you go, okay, someone's got to change this tire. And I'm looking at it around the vehicle, I'm like, it's a captain, sergeant major. All right, here we go.
The lowest guy on the totem pole.
That's me. So I'm thinking, these guys are going to be in there, and I'm going to be out there freaking dying to change this tire. And in fact, it was absolutely the opposite. So I was Sergeant Major Voltline that was actually in there helping turn lugs. Easy E9. The other guy, the captain, Captain Cowan. And he's the greatest officer I've ever worked with. And I have no problem saying it. He was out there sweating it out too, turning lugs, helping them change out the tire. Fast forward to 2009. Unit comes out to replace the battalion unit I'm working with. In walks Major Cowan. Major Cowan says, hey, we got to do a trip up to Tal Afar to visit 351st. I'm like, when are y'all going? He basically tells me, it's going to be in the same flight I'm on. We're all on a C-130 together. Here's the problem. I got all my gear minus a few bags I was able to kind of shove in a Connex to go home. I had a rucksack that weighed no less than 120 pounds. And 2 duffel bags.
Jeez.
And weapons, vest, all of it. So we're on this plane, and I go to get off this thing. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. How the hell am I supposed to carry all this? Major Cowan, we got this. He grabs one of my duffels. He grabs one strap of the rucksack. I grab the other strap of the rucksack, grab the other duffel. Down the freaking tarmac we go. This major steps up and says, I'll take it with you.
Wow.
Now he's a 2-star general now.
That's awesome.
And deservedly so, because nobody deserves it more than that guy.
Yeah.
Nobody. So yes, when you asked earlier, did I have some good leaders over there? Even though I didn't really work with, at that time, Major Cowan on that, I still ran into him. He was still a great leader. Just unbelievable. Like, what are you supposed to do with that?
He brought me his egg. We'll play later. Okay.
No, it's been raining for 2 straight days, and we really haven't been able to get outside.
I had asked you about your first deployment and asked if there was like a story that you could share that maybe was terrifying or like scary. And I totally get it if you don't want to share those things, but maybe if you have one that was so funny or like, because you see these videos. I remember watching some videos when you guys came back from deployment, and it's like, how many soldiers can you get into a porta potty? But it'd be like, I don't know, 20 of them suckers. Like, how do you fit 20 people?
So it's actually happened in one of our annual trainings out in, I think it was at NTC, National Training Center, which, I mean, you talk about hell on earth. What?
Yeah. So is
I walked up on that, and they were actually, I think the record was 13. 13 soldiers in a porta-john.
That's insane.
And they had the thing was they had to be able to get the door closed, latched, and be in there for like 3 seconds.
So I guess on your downtime, you have to entertain yourselves. Tell me a story.
So there's a couple of things to point out. First off, Sergeant McGuire, all you and your boys, there's a video out there called Marez Wars, M-A-R-E-Z, Marez Wars. It's on YouTube. Pretty sure they never took it down.
Was that like the Star Wars thing?
Yep.
Okay, I
They
saw
took
that
the red light lasers and it's beautifully done.
Did
It's
you get in
magnificent.
trouble for that?
Absolutely. The entire battalion had to, or it's green light lasers, and the entire battalion had to do green light laser training because of that. So they did that one. It was, again, magnificent editing. I'm quite proud of them.
What was it?
So what they did was they backed up two MREPs together, and they did the whole, scrolling text from like Star Wars. They backed two MREPs together, and they did the with the stairs coming down, dudes popping out. I'm like, I'm watching this going, I'm almost proud that I got in trouble for this. I mean, if you're gonna get in trouble, quality work, fellas, quality work.
Wow.
The funniest story in my military career. I'm not gonna use any names, but this dude knows who he is. So we're basically, I'm down to my last few days with the battalion. I'm about to head up to join my unit. We're sitting around smoking cigars, victory cigars, around a campfire. Now, how we were able to build a campfire with that, I have no idea. There's no freaking trees. I mean, anyway, built a fire somehow. So there's like 7 or 8 of us dudes sitting around. There's no chicks around. There's nothing. We're just dudes being dudes. And then someone pops up the story of the fact that at that time, and I'm going to try and not be graphic about this, but there's a contractor group called Triple Canopy, and they hire a lot of Nigerians. And I would say 99% of those Nigerians were incredible to work with. Apparently the 1%, though, there was a couple of them that were out male soldiers. They would go into the showers, pull them out of the shower. I didn't tell you about this?
I don't know. I don't remember it. That's horrifying.
Oh, no doubt. But we're Army. We find everything somewhat humorous at times. So we're sitting around there, and one of our soldiers, we're still friends this day, he is terrified of this. We're also like, bro, you come in the shower with me, and I'm going to freaking run your head through the drain. I mean, like, come on. This dude's terrified.
That it's going to happen to him.
Yeah. So our shower facility was like 40, 50 yard walk from our tent. Because they moved us into transition tents.
Now, is this happening on your base or COB or whatever you want to call the thing?
Ours was a COB, contingency operating base, instead of a FOB. From what I was told. But these
So there's a legit fear. It didn't happen 0 times.
It did not happen 0 times. So we're all sitting and talking about this. And this one guy who's terrified of it, he gets up and he goes into the tent and he looks at his battle buddy. We all have a battle buddy. We all have that one guy. Even when we don't told we gotta have a battle buddy, we still have that one guy, right? So he looks at his battle buddy and says, "Hey, I'm gonna take a shower." And he's like, "All right, go ahead." You're not going with me? He said, "No, I'm not going with you. You're a grown man. I'm not going to the shower with you." The guy's like, "What are you talking about?" So this dude goes into the tent, grabs his towel and his stuff, and he's like, and he comes back out. He's like, "You're seriously not going to go with me?" And he's like, "No, I'm not going to the shower with you. It's right there. I'll watch from here."
Okay.
So this dude's like, "Damn, okay." So we see him walking. His head's down. I'm like, "I don't know, you need to be looking up, man. That's how they get you." He's like, "Oh, man, you guys can't be doing this." So he finally gets there. And as he's walking away, his battle buddy goes,
No.
"I'm going to have some fun with this one."
No.
So, dude gets to the shower. His battle buddy goes, dead sprint up to the shower. He's up to the stairs area. And he waits till he's listening. He hears the water turn on, and he gets like 30 seconds. He's like, he told us like my goal is just kind of try and give him enough time to be in the shower, like butt naked, soaking wet, soaked up in the shower. He gives about 30 seconds, and we're literally like popcorn, like whatever we get. We're glued.
See, that's the difference between men and women, because I'm listening to the story and I'm just like, no, please don't. So women would just not do this like to each other.
In fact, the dude that told you that, me and him kind of bonded and hey, let me actually show you mentorship. Me and him were sitting there, we all started to walk a little closer because we wanted to better. So, you know, guy goes in there, here's the water. He says, I wait about 30 seconds. He sees the door open, reaches in, kills the lights, and yells, "Oogity boogity!" Slams the door shut.
Oh,
This dude
that
comes
guy
out.
was terrified.
This dude comes out with shower curtain, towel, everything. We couldn't stop laughing. It was 14 years of my career culminated with that one story right there. Yeah, were there moments where you're like, this is scary as hell? Yeah, there was definitely some of that. You know, I mean, it's hard to go through Iraq and not have, unless you what we call fob it. You know, the people that are on the fobs that never leave, and they're okay with that.
Yeah, but there's still reason to be concerned in that situation
Sure.
too, because
Mortars.
your
Rockets.
friend.
Yes, So.
I know you're about to tell this story, but I want you to think about. I remember you telling me a story about, and then I'm just going to say these things to jog your memory. About you were in a convoy, and someone forgot their license or ID or what. So I want you to tell.
The first one actually happened in the first tour. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had gotten back already. So I was trying to join up with the 351st during my first tour. I mean, I was supposed to be there. There was a deal arranged. I was supposed to go with them, and I had some friends in the 351st at the time, and one of them, I mean, I saw him like every day when they were at the same. I don't know, we called it a fob back then, but just for the sake of argument, when we were on the same fob together, I mean, we talked every day. Now, did he have closer friends than of course? He'd been in that unit for years, but we were pretty good with each other. And I remember they came and told me, like, okay, well, that kind of fell through. You know, basically they're going to trade 3 of us for 3 of theirs, people that were on profile and just one that was injured. And they magically got healed. They thought they were going to be left behind, because that's just not a good feeling for a soldier. You know, my unit's going to go somewhere and I'm not. So
you're like, what, broken leg? I can walk just fine.
Man, the Holy Spirit hit all of them, man. The healing Spirit nailed them. They were up and they were saying hallelujah. So I didn't get to go. So I actually walked with them as they were leaving to go to the tarmac to go to the plane to head into Iraq. And he was the last one I saw. I was like, all right, I guess I'll see you on the flip side when I get to the 351st finally. Because I told him I'm gonna go to the 351st when we get home. And so the female soldier I mentioned earlier, we're all, our unit's back. We got back a few months before they did, and I'm back to work. I'd only been back to work like a week, and she calls me up, and it's one of those things where okay, she's crying, so that's not normal. She goes, so 351st was on their way back, or starting to rotate people back, and Sergeant Mastrapa got killed in a rocket attack.
He was supposed to go home the next day.
Well, here's the stupid part. Like, he was supposed to be on, so there was 2 flights back. He was supposed to be on the first one, but he hated flying, and his buddies were assigned to the second one, so he made a switch so he could be on there with them. You know, and there's a tiny minuscule amount of survivor guilt because, you know, maybe I'd have been at the PX with him that day because he was at the PX when it happened. Some, pardon the French words, and I don't know why these are called French words, but some ass clown was basically standing outside the PX, waving his hands to try and direct a rocket in from outside the walls. And I think 3 died that day, and he was one of them. And I went to the funeral service. I've never been to his graveside. I don't know that I can do it. I've seen his marker. I don't know. So June is a terrible month for our family, and for me especially, because that was the 16th of June. So yeah, that was a result of the first tour. The second tour. So yeah, so we went on a mission, and we got a call from our truck saying the colonel forgot an important piece of documentation. I was like, okay. All right. Now, our truck was what you call rank heavy because we had 2 E6s in the truck. Me and one of my best friends from the Army, Dan, he's he was driving, and Dan drives pretty wild, and he wanted to really open it up, and he looked a little upset that we had to turn around and get this important piece of documentation. So we get back, and the colonel says, "Hey, look, it's almost lunchtime anyway. Let's just chill out and we'll go out after lunch." All right, it's gonna be about another hour and a half gone. We've already lost about an hour. And so we did exactly that. And we get out there, and we're about 2 hours into this drive. We start seeing huge plumes of smoke. I'm like, can't be good. And there's only so many roads out there, so you're starting to do the math in your head a little bit. Okay, we keep going this way, and we go to the left, which is where that smoke's coming at. Okay, I guess that's where we're going. So instantly, your situational awareness is already up. Now it's really peaked because you don't know what you're walking into. You could be going into an actual fight. I didn't see anything. We had this thing called a Blue Force track. I didn't see anything that indicated that, but I did see something that said, something about incident involving friendlies. We turn the corner and we see it. We see two strikers. They're armored vehicles. And one of them is lit up bad. I mean, it is fully engulfed in flames, smoke, everything. And, we were... Actually, Dan wasn't even driving now. That was a different guy driving. I was actually in the back because Dan was in the front. And we're all kind of looking like...
I didn't even realize Dan was with you that day. I never put two and two together when you were telling the story.
Yeah, he was in the TC spot, so he was basically shotgun for the civilian types out there. So we pull up on it, and he calls it in saying, "Hey, we'll pull security from this area." So we had 4 trucks. We do what soldiers should do. And I think they want to try to make sure that everybody from those 2 strikers was cleared out of the area, but I'm not going to get into what I've heard about the 2 guys that were in that truck that was smoke. But they hit an IED, and as well armored as some of these trucks are, they still have their pain points. They still have their temple shots, we call them. And the part that kind of shook me a little bit, when we finally got to where we were going, I started plotting out, in the Blue Force track, I started plotting out the timeline. And I realized fairly quick that was supposed to be mine. It's one of those like, hey, praise God, it wasn't me, but that means someone else had to eat it too. It's like we talk about before about hurricanes, right? Yeah, thank God things turned. Well, someone else has got to freaking have their light turned around. Why was us that didn't? Because in all the intel I saw said that, hey, if you're the 3rd truck, sucks to be you on all these IEDs, because that's when whoever's kind of flipping the trigger is flipping the trigger. Sometimes they have what they call crush plates, where whatever vehicle hits it sets it off, but that wasn't what was going on back then. All the cell phones, flipping them up. We had really good gear trying to jam those signals, but it's not foolproof. You do your best, but it's not foolproof. I probably told more of this than I anticipated, but I just always kind of thought back to those dudes that were in that vehicle and went, someone had to eat it, damn it.